let's talk transfer window. 2 weeks to go now. Who'll be on the move between now and then? Will Thomas Frank actually still be the Spurs manager by then? No better person to ask than talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, Alex Crook. Morning, Crookie.
Morning, Crookie lad.
Good morning, we well?
Yeah,
Very well, mate.
Really well. Anything new on Thomas Frank? I mean, I'm reading that he'll certainly be in charge tomorrow against Dortmund.
Yeah, I think that was always likely. He's due to take training today. There's a press conference actually at 3:30 this afternoon. Be interesting to see how he responds to questions about his future. But I would say that his job very much remains in the balance. We know there were talks at boardroom level over the weekend about what to do with the manager following that defeat at home to West Ham and the toxic scenes we saw afterwards. I think the big issue that Thomas Frank has got is not only do the fans seem to have completely turned against him, I'm being told there are a number of senior players who also have reservations about the direction the club are going in. No doubt that will filter to the powers that be. So I think it's still a question of when and not if Thomas Frank leaves Tottenham. But there isn't an obvious replacement mid-season. In terms of an interim, they don't have Ryan Mason on the books anymore. I know he's a free agent, but after what happened at West Bromwich Albion in his own managerial career, I'm not sure that would go down particularly well with the Spurs fans. Johnny Heitinger obviously has recently come in. He's had a bit of managerial experience, but again, that didn't go well for him at Ajax. So I think that's also part of the issue. But they've got so many players unavailable as well for this game against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League, not least Mickey van der Ven, who for me is their best defender. So it's hard really to make a case for Spurs winning that game. If they lose again, I think his days are numbered, unfortunately, because I love Thomas Frank, but you have to admit it's just not worked out at all, has it?
Well, it's not, mate. Now I want to ask you about a couple of centre-forwards potentially on the move. Crookie, Tammy Abraham, obviously, potentially going to Villa, and a question mark over Callum Wilson, who comes off the bench and within a minute gets the winner. Would it be good? Would that be a good move, selling him or sort of getting rid of him?
I think he'll stay now, Ali, to be honest. Yeah. He was obviously one of the players that David Sullivan personally signed in the summer. Hasn't played as much as he would have liked under Nuno Espirito Santo. Was pushing to have his contract torn up when they signed not one but two strikers in this window. But he showed what he can do, doesn't he? If there's a chance inside the penalty area and you're a West Ham fan, you want it to fall to Callum Wilson. So I think David Sullivan will dig his heels in now. I was told actually he was pretty close to joining Crystal Palace at one stage in this window. Obviously, they need a backup option to Jean-Philippe Mateta. I think Nketiah is still injured, but it doesn't look like that will happen now. And if I was Nuno Espirito Santo, I think I'd be giving Callum Wilson a lot more playing time in order to try and stay up. And on Tammy Abraham, this one was pretty close at one stage last week. Villa seemed confident of getting the deal done. It has just stalled a little bit. The issue here is there's not only two clubs involved because he's a Roma player, but he's on loan at Besiktas. So not only do Aston Villa have to do a deal with Roma in terms of a permanent transfer, Besiktas are also going to want compensating to terminate his loan spell. And obviously, Villa, one of the clubs affected by PSR restrictions. That's why they couldn't afford to buy Conor Gallagher in this window. And I know you've been mocking Gabby a little bit this morning, but I have written a piece on the talkSPORT website, a comment piece from yesterday, that Aston Villa really are being prevented from mounting a serious title challenge because they don't have the flexibility to go out and do what Manchester City have done in this window and signed Anton Semenyo and Mark Gay.
Crookie, I could hardly believe my eyes, actually. I was reading last night that Chelsea might be about to sign Jérémy Jacquet from Rennes, a 20-year-old central defender. How many central defenders do Chelsea need? How many inexperienced central defenders do Chelsea need?
Well, this was part of the frustration for Enzo Maresca, wasn't it? This was one of the reasons that he threw his toys out the pram and forced an exit, because particularly in defence, he felt they needed more experience. We've been told for the last 72 hours or so that Chelsea are going to look to bring in a defender this window, but it doesn't look like it will be an experienced player. Jérémy Jacquet left out by Rennes this weekend, having told them that he wants to make the move to Stamford Bridge. I think there's still a bit of a discrepancy in terms of the fee. They sold Jeremy Doku Rennes for a club record €64 million to Manchester City. We're told at talkSPORT they value Jacquet even higher than that. I'm sure there's a lot of Chelsea fans, if they're going to spend £60 million on a defender, why don't they go and get Ibrahima Konate from Liverpool, someone who's tried and trusted in the Premier League? Why weren't they in the conversation for one of their former players, Mark Gay? Because that's what they really need.
Yeah. Crookie, brilliant. Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers, Crookie. All the best, mate.
Cheers, guys.